Asian American Studies, Native Studies, and Legal Studies, as well as Native Pacific Studies more recently. These are fields that are multidisciplinary. I am a sociologist. I was trained in sociology, but sociology is only one discipline. But that one discipline is really more interdisciplinary. The founders of sociology are founders of other disciplines like anthropology. The study of culture is not simply the business of sociology and anthropology. So my point is, there are multidisciplinary fields that, in this case, Chamorro students and others are tapping into. And it is in the very nature of multidisciplinary thought that they're articulating ideas of indigenous identity, rights, political status, cultural preservation, policy formation, etc. The more real life stuff. And then, of course, legal studies. One of the recent publications, or '07 publication that for me, was among the things I've read, was a pretty rigorous analysis of the legal implications, is Hannah Gutierrez's piece in I don't have the citation right in front of me, I have it cited up here. And in her piece, it's 2003 actually, and she actually makes a claim for the potential legitimacy of dual citizenship for Guam. And I'm not going to engage the issue here because we need more time for that. But my point is, this is one example, whether you agree with the piece or not, whether you agree with the position or not, it has to do with pondering and fathoming the possibility of something that's multiple identity, okay? It's something that the U.S. Congress has been resistant to, but nonetheless, the U.S. has been resistant to almost every movement. So what's the difference? I mean, look at the Civil Rights Acts. At the state level, there was U.S. resistance. So it's always the case that you have things that are written that don't really mean what they say. The appropriation is you take it on its word. You say all men are created equal? Well, let's change men first, and change the meaning to all people are created equal, and then let's actualize that. Let's make that real. So that, in a kind of oversimplified, maybe superficial way, that's like a fundamental interpretation of U.S. policy formation. And so, what's the difference? And again, these are just questions. I'm not posing solutions. I'm not giving you a straight answer on, well, what status, I was on the radio station this morning and I was asked $1 million question. What status do you promote for the people? And I'm like, I'm not going to answer that question to you. That's a deep question. And why are you asking me? Because I have a PhD? Ask the people, right? It's about voice. And so, those are some of the things. And I know I'm bouncing off the wall a lot of different ideas. I hope you get the general gist of my message. And it has to do with students. It has to do with listening to people. Oh, I forgot I made another model that was supposed to simplify things. But actually, the model does add something, I think. On the left side of the model, I'm mainly speaking from an activist kind of progressive voice, which may or may not rub some of you the right or wrong way. But what I'm trying to capture here on the left is that not all students go to college because they want to change the world and make the lives of their people grounded in their ancestry better. I mean, let's be real. A lot of students go to college for mobility, economic mobility, social mobility, having choices for your careers, etc. So, we don't all enter the academy for activist reasons. And I myself, to be honest, I didn't either. I just went because, my mom expected me to, actually. And so I went to college. I was an engineering major. I was a psychology major. I think I was major in everything in the first year, like a lot of you. The undeclared was the popular major that we had. And so whether it be for activist reasons, because you want to raise your consciousness, you want to understand your people at a deeper level, you want to learn the big words to articulate that, or if it's simply because you just want to, you want your children later to have better opportunities than you had, Or it's because you have a job and you need to get this credential to get promoted. Whatever it is, I think in part what happens in the Chamorro educational diaspora, as an example, is that because of these, the student consciousness that's raised, and when, in particular, when you go off the island to school, you find comfort in communities that are familiar to you. So whether or not you're there because you're a business major and you want to make money, or you're a political science major because you want to deconstruct U.S. politics, you find comfort, you find cultural comfort, you find spiritual comfort, you find peer group comfort in what goes on a university campus in a very large place that's foreign to a lot of us. And so it is within those spaces that I think consciousness gets raised, regardless of what got you there to begin with. And that's certainly my story. And so that's the kind of thing that has sprung in motion the connections between the indigenous movement and these other, indigenous movements and minority movements, among other groups, and the pan-ethnic coalitions and formations that are not uncommon on college campuses. And so, when we look at these issues, and this just summarizes, really everything I've been talking about, going back to where I started this talk, is it an hour up already? Is someone keeping time? Because I'll keep talking. No, I'm going to be done in a few minutes. I want time to get your feedback. Going back to the issue of being marginal, visibly invisible, that kind of thing, not neatly fitting on the U.S. mainland. Out of that ambiguity, out of that ambivalence, I think what students are doing is they're reflecting. Again, regardless of their major. I think a lot of students are doing that. They're appropriating the academic disciplines, at times unconsciously. They're creating pan-ethnic, what I mean is, coalitions with other groups. And in doing that, they're legitimizing their own stories. And sovereignty is about legitimacy. It's not always about truth, but it's about your truth being heard. And so on the horizon, these are just, again, brainstorming ideas of current projects as well as future prospects of the things that I think students who are interested in these kinds of topics can do, some of which I'm involved in, is the data issues in higher education. I'm hoping that universities start collecting more specific data so that we can kind of monitor the extent of the educational diaspora among Pacific Islanders in particular. The problem of the undercounting in Census 2000, the next step is to make sure people fill those things out. So, Faye Antolun is heavily involved with the U.S. Census, and in the California area, she's actually helped to organize area committees that are in charge of kind of ensuring that our people that are scattered all over make sure they fill out these counts or these census surveys. At another level, I'm personally interested in doing more oral history, kind of the stuff I did for my dissertation, doing more oral history, in-depth interviews with a broader range of Chamorros in education as part of the more recent patterns of diaspora. And there's a lot more work done by students in this field as well, currently. A lot of the attention that we give in academia in terms of Chamorro studies specifically is really Guam-centered. And so I think there's more work that needs to look at the CNMI and Chamorros in other parts, because there are different trajectories because of a dramatically different colonial history. So I'm curious to look at other locations of Chamorros that we're not aware of on a demographic level, other than the U.S. mainland. Diaspora has to do with connection, connectedness, and interconnectedness. And so looking at the political reconnections of Chamorros of the Mariana Islands is a related topic. So looking at the coalitions, and some of that's going on. I think we're coming on a 4th Chamorro conference, which is an island hop conference in the Mariana Islands that's going on. And then finally, the question that I think some of you are interested in is, how do you get people to come back? That is a question that I've been asked several times. I'm not posing